The smartest mechanics in America are not driving brand new trucks anymore. They are hunting down rusty 20-year-old beaters with faded paint, manual windows, and 500,000 miles on the odometer. And that should terrify you. Because the people who know these machines better than anyone else are running away from modern vehicles as fast as they can. Not because new trucks are weak. Not because they cannot afford them. But because modern trucks have become something far more dangerous than unreliable. They have become locked property. Right now, automakers are building trucks that you technically pay for but legally cannot fully repair. A software prison hidden under the hood. A digital wall between you and your own engine bay. And most drivers have no idea it is happening until it is too late. Today we are exposing the VIN-Lock system. The hidden software trap dealerships use to control repairs. Why junkyard parts suddenly stopped working. Why simple battery swaps can destroy electrical systems. Why brake jobs now require computer authorization. And why mechanics across the country are quietly hoarding older trucks before they disappear forever. Because this is no longer about convenience. This is about control. And if this trend continues, the era of true vehicle ownership is dead. To understand how deep this scam goes, you need to understand one phrase the automotive industry rarely says out loud. Component protection. Also known as VIN-locking. Years ago, a truck part was just a physical object. An alternator was metal, copper, and magnets. A headlight was plastic, glass, and a bulb. A brake caliper was hydraulic pressure and steel. If something broke, you replaced it. Simple. But modern trucks are no longer mechanical machines. They are rolling computer networks. Ford, GM, Ram, Toyota, and nearly every major manufacturer now embed microchips into almost every critical component on the vehicle. Tail lights, batteries, steering systems, mirrors, seats, radar sensors, brake systems, even door handles. And at the factory, these microchips are digitally married to your truck using its vehicle identification number. That means the part is no longer universal. It belongs to one specific truck and one truck only. The moment you install a replacement part, your truck interrogates it like a security checkpoint. Where did you come from? What VIN are you assigned to? Are you authorized to operate here? If the answer is wrong, the truck refuses to activate the part. Not because the hardware failed. Not because the part is broken. Because the software says no. The part works perfectly. The truck simply denies you permission to use it. That is the trap. And most truck owners do not even realize how trapped they are until something small breaks. A dead battery. A cracked tail light. A brake service. A failed sensor. The kinds of repairs people used to handle in their own garages on a Saturday afternoon. But modern trucks are changing that relationship completely. For decades, owning a truck meant independence. It meant freedom. It meant if something failed, you grabbed your toolbox, opened the hood, and fixed the problem yourself. That culture built entire generations of mechanics. Fathers teaching sons. Neighbors helping neighbors. Small repair shops surviving in tiny towns because people still believed machines should be reparable. Now compare that world to what is happening today. Modern trucks are no longer designed around mechanical simplicity. They are designed around dealership dependency. Everything talks to software. Everything reports to computers. Everything requires authorization. And once software controls the machine, the manufacturer controls the owner. That is why experienced mechanics are quietly avoiding new vehicles entirely. Go ask independent shop owners what they personally drive. You will see old Silverados, old Cummins Rams, early 2000s Tacomas, OBS Fords, GMT 800 trucks. Vehicles built before software became the gatekeeper. Because those older trucks still obey physics instead of corporate permissions. When something breaks, you replace the part and move on. No laptop required. No corporate server required. No dealer authorization required. Just tools, knowledge, and labor. That freedom is disappearing faster than most people realize. And the scariest part is the average driver still thinks these systems exist for convenience. Manufacturers love using words like smart technology, advanced integration, connected systems, enhanced safety. But behind all those marketing phrases is one brutal reality: control. The more software integrated into the vehicle, the less control the owner has over repairs. And dealerships know it. Why do you think repair costs are exploding across the country? Why do you think independent repair shops are struggling to survive? Why do you think insurance claims on modern trucks have become unbelievably expensive? Because software restrictions have transformed ordinary repairs into dealer-controlled monopolies. A simple repair no longer means replacing broken hardware. Now it means programming, calibration, authentication, server communication, then verification. The physical repair itself is often the easy part. The software lock is what costs the money. And most drivers never see it coming until the bill lands in their lap. Imagine replacing a damaged mirror. 20 years ago you bought another mirror, installed it, and drove away. Now that mirror may contain cameras, blind spot sensors, heating elements, memory systems, and microchips tied directly to the truck network. One broken mirror can suddenly require calibration tools, software pairing, and dealership authorization. Not because the mirror cannot physically function. Because the software demands permission first. That is what modern ownership has become. Permission-based repair. And the battery situation perfectly exposes how absurd this system really is. For over 100 years, battery replacement was one of the simplest repairs on Earth. You disconnected the old battery, dropped in a new one, started the engine. Done. That process worked for generations. But modern trucks transformed even this basic task into a software-controlled event. Today, many vehicles use intelligent charging systems that constantly monitor battery health and charging behavior. The truck tracks voltage fluctuations, charging cycles, temperature, and battery age. As batteries weaken over time, the computer compensates by commanding the alternator to increase charging output. That sounds harmless until you realize what happens during replacement. When a fresh battery is installed, the truck often still thinks the old dying battery remains in the system. So it continues forcing aggressive charging voltage into the new battery unnecessarily. The battery overheats internally. Fluid breaks down. Cells degrade. Battery lifespan collapses. And suddenly owners are replacing batteries again far sooner than expected. Not because the battery was defective. Because the software was never reset properly. Now here comes the real problem. Most manufacturers do not make the reset process simple. There is rarely an obvious dashboard option. Rarely a clear warning in the owner manual. Rarely an easy explanation for regular drivers. Instead, owners are forced into hidden procedures involving ignition cycles, pedal combinations, high beam flashes, or expensive skin tools. The average person has no idea these systems even exist. So what happens? They go to the dealership. Exactly where manufacturers wanted them in the first place. And once people become dependent on dealership service departments for even basic maintenance, the trap is complete. Because dealerships are no longer just selling vehicles. They are selling permanent dependence. That is where the real money lies. Not in one truck sale. In decades of controlled repairs. And the deeper modern trucks move into software dependency, the more impossible independent ownership becomes. The entire system is slowly shifting away from mechanical freedom and toward digital permission. Which brings us directly to the biggest target of all. The American salvage yard. For generations, junkyards kept older vehicles alive cheaply. Working families relied on them. Independent mechanics relied on them. Small repair shops relied on them. If your truck needed a replacement module, light, seat, mirror, wheel, or engine component, you could find one used for a fraction of dealership prices. That system saved billions of dollars. Manufacturers saw it as lost profit. So VIN-locking changed everything. Now when used electronic parts are installed, many vehicles immediately scan and verify the component identity. If the VIN stored inside the replacement module does not match the vehicle, the system rejects it. Instantly. The part may be fully functional, physically perfect, mechanically sound. None of that matters. Software decides whether the repair is allowed. And once software controls access, manufacturers effectively control the entire repair economy. That is exactly why mechanics are panicking right now. Because they understand where this road ends. A future where owners never truly own anything mechanical again. A future where every repair requires authorization. Every module requires subscription access. Every replacement part requires software validation. A future where the dealership becomes the only legal gateway between drivers and their own vehicles. And most people still do not realize how close that future already is. The salvage yard used to be the last refuge of the working-class mechanic. If your truck got damaged, you did not panic. You did not call the dealership begging for help. You grabbed your tools, drove down to the local junkyard, and started walking rows of wrecked trucks under the hot sun. That place was freedom. One smashed Silverado could keep 10 other trucks alive for years. Mirrors, tail lights, engines, doors, seats, alternators, sensors, entire transmissions. If the part physically fit, the truck usually worked again. That simple loophole saved millions of Americans from financial disaster. And automakers absolutely hated it. Because every junkyard repair was money they could not control. Every used part installed was one less overpriced dealership component sold. Every independent repair was another reminder that truck owners still had power over their own machines. So manufacturers found a way to shut the loophole down without openly banning repairs. They embedded software directly into the parts themselves. Now modern trucks are filled with electronic modules quietly communicating with each other every second the vehicle runs. The tail lights communicate. The steering system communicates. The parking brake communicates. The seats communicate. The cameras communicate. The radar communicates. Everything talks. And every conversation flows through the main computer. That means the truck constantly knows exactly which components belong to it, and which ones do not. The best example is hidden in something most drivers never even think about. The tail light. On older trucks, a tail light was incredibly simple. A plastic housing. A bulb socket. A couple wires. If you cracked one, you bought another for cheap, plugged it in, and drove away. But modern tail lights are no longer simple lighting assemblies. They are electronic control hubs. Inside many newer trucks, the tail lights contain blind spot radar systems, parking sensors, cross-traffic monitoring modules, LED communication boards, and microprocessors. That means when the tail light breaks, you are no longer replacing plastic. You are replacing software-controlled electronics. Imagine backing your truck into a concrete pole. The tail light shatters. The radar module inside gets damaged. So you head online and find the exact same used tail light assembly from a wrecked truck for a fraction of dealership pricing. You install it yourself. Everything plugs in perfectly. Physically, the repair is flawless. Then you start the truck. Instantly, warning lights explode across the dashboard. Blind spot monitoring unavailable. Rear cross-traffic system disabled. Service safety restraint system. Calibration error. Why? Because your truck immediately scanned the replacement module and detected the wrong VIN number stored inside its microchip. The truck sees the replacement part as unauthorized hardware, even though it physically works perfectly. That is how insane modern repair systems have become. The vehicle is no longer asking whether the part functions. It is asking whether the manufacturer approves of the part. And if approval is denied, the system intentionally disables it. Now comes the worst part. Most drivers assume there must be an easy reset procedure. There usually is not. Instead, owners are forced directly into dealership service departments where technicians connect factory scan tools to manufacturer servers and request authorization to pair the component with the vehicle. Read that carefully. A corporate server must grant permission before your own truck accepts a replacement part you already purchased. That is not repair anymore. That is digital gatekeeping. And in many cases, dealerships refuse to pair used modules entirely. Meaning perfectly good salvage yard parts become worthless overnight. The physical hardware survives. The software kills it. That is exactly why junkyards are struggling with newer vehicles. Older trucks could be endlessly recycled, repaired, and resurrected using donor parts. Modern trucks are becoming disposable because software restrictions make repairs economically impossible. One failed module can total an otherwise healthy vehicle. Not because mechanics cannot fix it. Because manufacturers lock the software ecosystem behind corporate authorization systems. And the average owner never sees this coming when they buy the truck. Dealerships advertise horsepower, luxury, giant touch screens, and towing numbers. They never explain the long-term repair consequences hiding behind all that technology. Nobody tells buyers that a future mirror replacement may require software calibration. Nobody explains that a simple battery swap may need electronic registration. Nobody warns customers that brake repairs can destroy expensive motors if maintenance mode is not activated first. The ownership experience has fun. Modern ownership increasingly looks more like renting hardware from a corporation that maintains permanent digital authority over repairs. That reality becomes even more obvious once you examine modern dealership economics. Most people assume dealerships make their money selling vehicles. They do not. The real profits come after the sale. Service departments, replacement parts, warranty repairs, software updates, diagnostics, programming fees. That is where the serious money lies. And software-locked vehicles guarantee customers keep returning forever. Because once the average owner loses the ability to repair the truck independently, the dealership becomes mandatory infrastructure. Exactly like smartphone ecosystems. Think about what happened to phones. Years ago, you could replace batteries easily, swap components yourself, repair hardware cheaply. Now devices are glued shut, serialized, digitally paired, and increasingly hostile toward independent repair. The automotive industry watched that business model carefully. And then they copied it. Modern trucks are slowly becoming giant rolling smartphones. Always connected. Always monitored. Always software dependent. And every year manufacturers move one step closer toward total repair control. Some automakers already require internet-connected skin tools for certain repairs. Some require active subscriptions for programming access. Some lock repair procedures behind licensed software systems unavailable to ordinary owners. Independent mechanics are being squeezed from every direction. That is one reason older, experienced technicians are refusing to modernize their fleets. They know the future of software-locked vehicles creates enormous risk. Not just financially. Practically. Because once software becomes central to vehicle functionality, every repair depends on external systems remaining accessible. What happens if a manufacturer shuts down server support for older models? What happens if subscription costs rise dramatically? What happens if software ages? Modern ownership increasingly looks more like renting hardware from a corporation that maintains permanent digital authority over repairs. That reality becomes even more obvious once you examine modern dealership economics. Most people assume dealerships make their money selling vehicles. They do not. The real profits come after the sale. Service departments, replacement parts, warranty repairs, software updates, diagnostics, programming fees. That is where the serious money lies. And software-locked vehicles guarantee customers keep returning forever. Because once the average owner loses the ability to repair the truck independently, the dealership becomes mandatory infrastructure. Exactly like smartphone ecosystems. Think about what happened to phones. Years ago, you could replace batteries easily, swap components yourself, repair hardware cheaply. Now devices are glued shut, serialized, digitally paired, and increasingly hostile toward independent repair. The automotive industry watched that business model carefully. And then they copied it. Modern trucks are slowly becoming giant rolling smartphones. Always connected. Always monitored. Always software dependent. And every year manufacturers move one step closer toward total repair control. Some automakers already require internet-connected skin tools for certain repairs. Some require active subscriptions for programming access. Some lock repair procedures behind licensed software systems unavailable to ordinary owners. Independent mechanics are being squeezed from every direction. That is one reason older experienced technicians are refusing to modernize their fleets. They know the future of software-locked vehicles creates enormous risk. Not just financially. Practically. Because once software becomes central to vehicle functionality, every repair depends on external systems remaining accessible. What happens if a manufacturer shuts down server support for older models? What happens if subscription costs rise dramatically? What happens if software ages?